This is the world we live in now. This woman is wielding a knife and walking down the street. Very bizarre. And people just slightly get out of the way, but like no one's alarmed whatsoever.
Right. New York City. Apparently that's what's happening there these days. Now, I don't know what's going on, but a lot of you sent me this video and you've asked the question, Tom, if I was walking down the sidewalk and if she's coming at me, can I legally shoot her? Guys, let's get into it. So what the heck is going on here? Like, what's wrong with you people? Where are you coming up with these videos that you're emailing them to me? I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if this is some sort of weird attempt at modern art. I don't know if she's got daddy issues. Like, I don't know what's going on here to try to go so hard in the paint of give me attention, I want it all. But that seemingly is what's going on here because she's being filmed. I don't know if the person filming it is in on it with her, and if she's just doing this to try to raise awareness about something. Maybe there's some play she's advertising. Maybe it's an art thing. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to make out, but we don't see what's happening in front of her. Maybe she's wearing a shirt that says, come to my slasher film or something like that, right? Maybe in person, it's obvious the knife is fake. Maybe the person who's running the camera has a massive sign that says she is just an actress advertising something. I don't know. So there's a lot of things that could disqualify this, but I'm not going to be taking those into effect here. I'm just going to take the video as I see it. I'm going to assume that there's nothing weird like that. No ex machinas coming in to change this on the other side. So let's get to the question. Can you legally shoot her? You're walking down the street, a woman's coming towards you. She's wielding what appears to be a very large butcher knife. She has it over her head. She's slashing with it in a downward direction. I can't tell if she's making threats to people or anything like that. We're going to get into that in a moment. But bottom line, can you legally shoot her? Maybe. Now, keep in mind, in order to use deadly force, we always have to first establish that you are in imminent or immediate reasonable fear of death or great bodily harm. So there has to be some sort of deadly threat against you. It has to be a reasonable deadly threat. It has to be bounded by space and time. So for instance, if this woman is 100 yards away down the street armed with a knife, is she a threat to you at that precise moment in time? No. She's not. You have plenty of time to evade, to escape. You dropping her with your deer rifle, unless you try to argue defensive third person, maybe you got something, but you're probably not gonna be able to argue defensive self. Now, keep in mind, local listings change. So you have to keep in mind that the laws in different states about whether or not it's imminent, immediate, all that will change with place and time. So it's always important to know your local laws. Here are some issues though. I'm going to tackle this both from the prosecution and the defense side. Let's say you do pull out your firearm and you do use it to stop her as she's coming down the street. And there's nothing like threatening, menacing language or something like that. Because if she's looking you in the eyes saying, I'm going to kill you, and she's 5 feet away, I think you're going to have a great case. Okay, I do. And there's just no getting around that. But we're getting out of any kind of menacing, threatening language, and it's just her strolling down the street with her favorite little walking companion, the 8-inch butcher block knife. So let's imagine you're 50 feet away. You're walking down the street, and you decide to pull out your firearm, and you shoot her. Prosecutor's going to argue one of two things. One, that she was not a deadly threat to you because she was too far away. Remember the Tueller drill? Remember those concepts regarding the reactionary gap about how what's the length of time or what's the distance that someone with an edged weapon is going to be considered to be a deadly threat to someone? I would argue that this is really variable from person to person because fundamentally it goes by your draw time. In other words, if it takes me 2 seconds to draw my concealed carry gun, then someone with a knife becomes a deadly threat once it takes less than 2 seconds for them to charge and to get into slashing distance to me. That principle is called the reactionary gap. So in law enforcement, this is generally thought of as being alternatively either 21 feet or 28 feet. I think for concealed carriers, it should actually be longer because law enforcement records their draw time from an open carry position, from a full-size pistol. Also, not to mention, they do it on a calm, even day where they're doing it against the clock and they know that they're trying to do it as part of a drill. You being caught by surprise, maybe from an angle you didn't see coming from, drawing through 3 layers of clothing, your micro, subcompact, whatever, totally different situation. Yeah, I've seen the videos on Reddit. Some of you guys are crazy, but most of you out there are not going to be drawing through all of that. You've got to go through target identification, target isolation. You got to do all this against the clock, maybe with things in your hand, maybe there's other distractions. You get it. Your action gap should be farther. But that's the sort of court battle that could ensue if you decide to pull out and pull the trigger, because in essence, your attorney would have to be arguing that, yeah, they were a threat to you, or maybe to a third person, but I'm setting that aside. But they were a threat to you when they were 50 feet away, 40 feet away, 30 feet away, whatever distance it was, they were a deadly threat. The prosecutor is going to be saying they were not a deadly threat because your use of force was unreasonable, because you could have run away, you could have crossed the street, you could have done all those things. I know some of you are saying, I'm one of the lucky folks that live in one of the 28 states that have something like stand your ground. Yeah, she might be going home in a body bag if we're in one of those states. I mean, I wouldn't shoot at 50 feet, and bluntly, as I'm going to emphasize right here for the first time, I'm going to do it again and again and again, never use your firearm unless you absolutely have to. But for future reference, quick Google search. These are one of the 28 states that have something like stand your ground. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, Wyoming. Right. Not one of the states to do your stunt, whatever this was in. Okay. Because yeah, if you are in one of those states, check your local listings. But if she is, let's say 10 feet away from you, you may not have a reasonableness discussion about could you have fled. Don't confuse that with duty to retreat. Duty to retreat is different. Then if you can reasonably retreat, you have to. But prosecutors will work into your use of force oftentimes whether or not you could retreat. Okay, you have a duty to do so, but it goes to whether or not your use of force was reasonable. Because if you could have just stepped inside of a store, locked the door, jumped in your car, locked the door, or run across the street when you saw her coming, there can be very different things. By the way, this could have a very different legal conclusion, a very different legal outcome, because if you could have done any of those things and you still chose to pull your firearm and shoot, an anti-gun prosecutor is going to go after you for using force unreasonably. And remember, you have to be in reasonable fear of imminent death or great bodily harm. Your fear was not reasonable, is what they're going to say. I'm not saying you got to like that. I'm saying this is often what I see out there. Please excuse this brief interruption to support our sponsor. Our sponsor today is my law firm. We've got over 50 employees, over 30 attorneys, all over the state of Wisconsin. We are here in the state of Wisconsin. We handle criminal defense, divorce, and we also have estate planning. Different wings of the firm do different things to make sure that you always get the best attorney at a price point that you can afford. And if you're enjoying this and other educational legal content that I've done, well, thank you for joining me, number one. But number two, please consider dropping a 5-star review. You can find posts down that will be linked to different Google platforms. You can check out some of the details below. I appreciate you sticking around. Don't miss the quote of the day at the end of the video. Now back to the show. And for those of you who are in one of the 28 stand your ground states, stand your ground is obviously not a license to kill, but it does arguably mean that you don't have any duty to cross the street, and maybe the judge or jury cannot even consider whether or not you had to reasonably exhaust those options. However, the justice system, it's like walking through Chernobyl a few days after explosion. You may make it, you may not, but you will be changed and never the same. And come to think of it, I think surviving divorce may kind of sound like that as well. That's neither here or there. Back to New York City. Bottom line is, could you shoot her? If you can reasonably explain why she's a reasonable threat to you, and if you're dealing with anti-gun prosecutors, anti-gun judges, and juries, you're gonna have to explain, unfortunately, how that reasonable fear included your inability to exhaust your retreat options. If you're one of the folks in the 28 states, and if she's close enough that you can rely on stand your ground, then maybe that's another story. Either way, I promise you, don't shoot if you don't have to. It won't be worth it. She's not worth it. Your family and your career are not worth it. But bottom line, yeah, maybe you can shoot her in a stand your ground state. Outside of stand your ground, the prosecutor is going to argue everything we just talked about. Now, what do you think? Let me know down in the comment section below. You're the jury. Can you legally shoot her? And run it both ways if you could. I'm curious to see what folks say. In your state, post up what state if you want to. You don't have to, but hey, I'm in a stand your ground state. I think I'll be okay with this with a judge and a jury and a prosecutor. Or alternatively, yeah, no, I'm going to get fried. Okay, that knife better be 5 inches into my chest. Okay. Let me know what you think about this, how it would go down where you are. I'm curious to see what you all think about this. Our quote of the day, I'm just going to make this up right now. I'm going to be honest. I was looking for a quote of the day, and I just kind of thought of this. Cities tolerate crazy people. My Glock doesn't. How about that? Hit that like button if you liked it. Let me know that in the comment section down below. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to check out some of our other great content, and we'll see you in the next one.